Okay guys, welcome back to Our World Outdoors. So today we thought we'd bring you a slightly late video on our most memorable and enjoyable trips of 2021. Now some of these had some turns in them, as a lot of our trips always do, to where they got a little rough at points and times, but they still made them the most memorable trips of the year. So honey, let's start off the list by one of the most amazing but yet wild nights we had last year.
So that was probably Twin Creeks is what you're talking about.
Yep.
Started out great, we had a great time, and then the weather turned kind of crazy.
Well, the falling of the snow was okay, but when it converted over to sleet, and then it converted over to ice, then it converted back to sleet in the morning.
And in the morning we had like 3 inches of water and slush.
Yeah, so we were walking around in our poncho tarps while it was raining on us. But, I mean, we had amazing food. We had an amazing evening around a big fire.
Sat out around the fire a little bit too long that night, actually.
That might have been part of the problem, is we sat around the fire and got soaking wet, just having fun and enjoying, the evening. So that was definitely an adventure, to say the very least. Mike and Brenda did an amazing job of setting that trip up and toughing through it with us. Trust me, we were all glad to pack up all the equipment, put in the cars, and go get into warm vehicles after that trip, but it was still all smiles as we went home.
Now, what about talking about trips that don't turn out exactly the way you'd planned, because we'd planned this months in advance. Carter Caves couples trip in the bunkhouse.
So we had this all planned out. Since there's electric in the bunkhouse, we were going to bring heaters. It was going to be great. Everybody's going to be pretty warm. We were going to go do the 8-mile loop down there so you could see all the amazing stuff. And we got to about halfway through Kentucky and realized we were in a giant snow and ice storm. And when we pulled in, most of the roads hadn't even been plowed through the state park. And electric lines were down everywhere. We were literally driving over them. So with that said, we thought, oh, we'll see who makes it. Everybody came. Everybody still came. And even the park rangers were like, are you guys going to be okay? They brought us firewood. It was an amazing trip. It was.
You guys are the only people who have been here since November. But we all toughed it out.
Yeah,
the rangers kept checking on us.
We went through and did a great hike there. It was an amazing evening hanging out with everybody. We had some great food, and I think that was even one of the ones that Gretchen was nice enough to bring some cupcakes on.
I think so.
So, we had Brendan and Mike there. We had Gretchen and Willie there. It was just a really good time with really good people.
And luckily, most importantly, we had Mike's heater and Tony brought a kerosene heater.
Yeah.
So we did have some heat, but with the leaking in there, I think we got up to 45 degrees in there that night.
Yeah, because it got really cold, and that was an uninsulated bunkhouse, but still a good time. So now we got to fast forward a little bit, and we did a multi-day in another state that was pretty memorable. Honestly, I think it was probably one of the more enjoyable warm weather trips of last year, which was Oil Creek. And that one, Mike and Brenda stepped up and said, let's go do multi-day. And we did.
That one was pretty amazing. We'd never been to Oil Creek before.
Yeah.
So
stepping up to getting from sleeping in tents and hammocks to being able to sleep in shelters was a pretty cool kind of change of pace for us. We did have our own issues as the wind was blowing like crazy, so instead of sleeping in 2 different shelters which we had rented, we all just kind of piled into one. We put our poncho tarps up to block the windows. Those 3FUL gear poncho tarps really did the trick of cutting down that wind, but then all the firewood was super green and popping everywhere. So yeah, I mean, people's stuff got damaged.
So we actually reserved for 2 shelters, one for each couple. But we ended up just staying in one shelter the whole time because it was just so much better and it was cozy.
Now, we did pop Brenda popped her sleeping pad. Mike burnt his brand new hoodie. There's more damage than that. I can't remember it all, but it was fun, but it was a rough time at times because the firewood was just blowing coals all over us. I mean, it just popped in the middle of the night, and we'd be like, everybody jump up, make sure they weren't on fire.
And that's the trip that we got to see the porcupine on, wasn't it?
Yep, climbing up the tree, there's porcupine there. We saw a lot of different things on that trip, honestly.
That was a great
trip. And the end of the day was the best. Like the last day coming out, the weather totally opened up, clean and nice. And we went out, and then we had an amazing lunch afterwards. Really good time. and sat there with the view eating giant hot dogs and burgers. So, excellent trip.
So another very memorable trip for me this year was the all-girls Carter Caves trip. That's our second annual trip that we've done at Carter Caves, and we had an awesome time this weekend. It was a 3-day trip, 2 nights. We were supposed to stay in the bunkhouse. Some of us did stay in bunkhouses, some of us stayed in tents or hammocks, but we did some hiking, we did some cave exploring, we did a potluck. It was all around a great time. And I think we had 20 girls there, and that's including Lori's or Kim's dog,
Yep.
which was also a girl.
They obviously had a great time because when I was editing it, they were throwing hatchets and axes and going through tunnels and screaming and whooping. You guys didn't get to see half the footage that I had to edit on that. They really had a good time there. I gotta say I'm a little jealous on that one.
And the best part of it was my friend Ellie got to come, and she absolutely loved the bunkhouse.
Yep.
So we kind of spoiled her now. She only wants to stay in bunkhouses.
So moving on from that one's gonna be hard to top, but sometimes you want something different. Sometimes tents and hammocks and stuff are nice, but sometimes you want to just have some really creature comforts, amenities. So sometimes you got to go for a cabin. So what we did is we got a really good deal by using some gift certificates we had gotten for Christmas to Ohio State Parks, and we went over to Lake Hope and did an overnight. Now the trip first started a little bit funny, as a lot of our trips have some kind of turn to them, and we were hiking and trees were falling down around us, like literally falling on the trail right where we were just standing. So we finished up the hike. It was still a beautiful hike and a beautiful day, but it was getting to the point where we had to get out of the woods, so we had to hurry up at the end. But then we got to go retire in the evening at one of Lake Hope's wonderful little cabins. Now, it was kind of Dr. Seussy. Some of it was a little twisted. Flores did a little bit of this. But talk about a fun evening.
Still very cozy.
We cooked out back, made
amazing
food,
food,
some s'mores, and then we retired into the cabin to sit by the fire and just enjoy each other's company. Really a good time. I do encourage you guys to not always be all about the backcountry. Take some time to go get a cabin every once in a while and just enjoy creature comforts while still being able to get out in nature and go hike and do things.
So those are all of our most memorable backpacking trips of the year. But there's a lot of amazing day hikes too.
Yes. One of our most recent, and probably one of my favorite, and every time I do this I find something new to check out, is where you go across from the actual parking lot of Old Man's Cave, go across the street, and you can park there, and there's like a trailhead there, and you can take what is the NCT, also the Buckeye Trail, and follow it around, and it will bring you out down by the rock climbing and rappelling area, down near Conkle's Hollow, down off, I can't remember the name of the road now.
Pine Road?
Big Pine Road.
Big Pine Road?
That's what it is. And that hike has so much to see. I mean, rock structures, there's waterfalls all along it. I mean, just...
But this particular time...
Yes, there was a very big difference.
Really cool.
There was guys out there doing high line, or basically, yeah, I mean, it's not really tightrope walking, but it's basically they're walking on a piece of strapping all the way across the ridge there. And that was like a 200-foot drop.
They picked the most amazing place because it had just rained, so one of the waterfalls was flowing like crazy where they were doing it.
Yeah, like 25 foot over, the waterfall fell. And they're walking across it, and you can basically see everything right there. And there's actually another waterfall on down you can see from it, because we were sitting at it watching them. But yeah, just to sit there and take a few moments on the trail, take a break and watch them highlining across there. And then as we went on the hike, it had just rained, like she had said, and all the waterfalls were flowing, all of them.
Hocking State Forest has so much to offer that people don't even go on those trails. So if you want secluded, that's one that you can go on that you'll really enjoy.
Yep. Now the last one we should probably talk about as an extra is the one where you guys tried to take on severe flooding.
So the girls planned a all-girl hike at Rock Stalls back last winter, and we'd had snow, it started melting, and the day that we'd planned to do it, it happened to be raining. So me, Lori, and Brenda goes out here to this trip. It's only supposed to be like a mile and a half in, a mile and a half out. But let me tell you, that was probably the most adventurous day hike I have ever been on in my life. We crossed raging streams, climbed on trees, you name it, we pretty much did it. But we went to the Millstone and had some awesome food afterwards. It was definitely a memorable trip.
If you watch that video, which all of these will be linked in the description box below, I can promise you that Rock Stalls video will have you biting your nails at some points and laughing your butt off at others as they are crawling in all kinds of different variants, trying to get across this stuff. I had to do some creative...
I have a special scene in there.
You got a couple special scenes in there. But I had to do some major editing because people were losing their clothes trying to climb on stuff. I mean, it was a true adventure. I mean, they were waist deep in water at some point, so that can give you guys an idea how
But you will never
intense.
see Rock Stalls as massively flowing as it was that day.
That's for sure. So, if you enjoyed this video, or if you want to check out any of these wonderful videos that we discussed, all the links will be down in the description. Make sure you also go down there, and while you're down there, if you haven't already, and I don't know why you wouldn't have, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, make sure you leave us a comment, give us a like if you enjoyed it, and honey, we will
See you up the trail.
Now we need to go make some more memorable memories.
This year is going to be awesome.